drop like. All right, everybody. Let's get excited. Round 4 of the Illustrious Cards and Games One Piece Store Championship is underway. I am Zemanon here on the call. Our first matchup, we have 2 matches being streamed here simultaneously. So if this one ends early, we've got a backup to get to. But this matchup is going to be Freezy with Marshall D. Teach, aka Blackbeard, and Albert on the Opio 1 Doflamingo deck. Dofi obviously taking a hit with the ban of Jinbei, so not going to be able to as easily go wide without Jinbei playing another Warlord for free. However, I do think Doflamingo is still an incredible deck. I think it is still a very strong tier 1 deck. Albert's 3-0 currently with it. A lot of people still have a lot of faith in Doflamingo without Jinbei. It certainly did not kill the deck or hinder it as much as maybe some other decks got hurt with some of the other bans here. But yes, this is our first post-ban store championship in this new OP10 meta, so going to see how it works out. Had some pretty fun matchups here in the first 3 rounds at Illustrious. Let's see what happens here. Excuse me, in round 3 or round 4. So Freezy, who's also 3-0. Freezy on the Blackbeard. This is typically seen as a tough matchup for Blackbeard, whereas Doflamingo might not get all of his on-play value out of playing characters once Teach turns off those on-play abilities. He's still able to go wide and get characters out because you can't turn off the when attacking Doflamingo ability, right? Doflamingo's leader ability is still going to be working out there, getting bodies out. The Blackbeard kind of going against himself, as most people are running 4 copies now of the starter deck, Marshall D. Teach in Doflamingo to give his leader 2 Rested Dawn. So those 7K swings and sometimes 8K if you can play a Boa Hancock out of it are very difficult to get through for Teach, who Teach already has to trash their own hand to negate those on-play abilities. So if you're going to be trashing your own hand, you're also going to have less cards in hand for counter, right? Against all of these wide bodies that Doflamingo can play. So I'm excited to see how this one works out between Teach and Dofi here. I think it's probably a simpler strategy for Doflamingo in this matchup, as they do have the quote-unquote matchup advantage, right? Just try to go wide, do what you can, just get as many swings at Blackbeard per turn as you can, and once he turns off your on-play abilities, then just get some of those strong 6K, 7K bodies out and keep trying to swing a game every turn. Now, there are options for Blackbeard on his end, right? Like Liberation and Black Hole, and use that Black Hole to get the KOs on blockers. Use Liberation to kill multiple things. Also, the Finger Pistol is really strong in this matchup in particular, as essentially everything outside of Jozu in Doflamingo is pretty much in that 5 cost or under range. So I would imagine Blackbeard, as he gets started with the proper start here, the Searcher right away on 1 Don for Freezy. Going to take that Liberation in hand. Finger Pistol, very valuable in this matchup because you're able to pretty much KO 95% of Doflamingo's deck with that card and fill up your trash, which is helpful for Kuzan to bring cards back from the trash, and also helpful for Jesus Burgess, whose power is increased by 1,000 power for every 4 cards that Freezy is going to have in the trash. Will be a Perona played here on turn 1 for Albert with his 2 Don turn. So just trying to stack that deck up in the proper way for next turn. Knowing next turn As a Doflamingo player, I feel like the hardest barrier to get over is understanding your pace, understanding your cadence of, okay, draw, play. That's how you want the cards to go up. And it's difficult sometimes. People don't remember properly. So we'll see what happens. But Freezy going to go with the leader swing into Dofi. Albert decides to take that first one just to get some more cards in his hand. There's another searcher from Freezy, taking the body there and getting more cards in the trash. I believe that is the dot Q there. That's going to get the KO on Perona. So you might wonder, so dot Q resting itself to get the KO on a 1 cost. You may wonder, why is it so important to get rid of a Perona? It's just a silly little 1 cost. But when Doflamingo has access to the bounce law, as we like to call it, the law that on play, return one of your cards on your field to bounce one of your opponent's characters back out. Getting rid of that Perona now forces Albert to spend extra Don if he wants to play that. If he wants to play that law, and of course it's now not in hand, which very often you'll play law, bounce Perona, bounce the card back, and then play Perona again, or play the buggy again, or play Sengoku. Right, very common strategy to get multiple searches out or multiple deck fixes out with the same card. Perona's in trash, but we do see Albert has another one in hand right now. So you would have access if you wanted to stack the deck again properly. It will be a 7K swing into Doc Q, using the leader effect, playing out Gecko Moria, so getting that body out rested. Obviously getting rid of the zero KO or zero power character, there. But on KO does draw a card, so Freezy does get to draw there and draw for turn, so getting a couple cards in hand. Albert does decide to play Perona yet again to fix that top of the deck and have access to the low-cost bounce teammate to help Law out on a future turn. But how many turns will Freezy allow Albert's on-play abilities to work out? That's the real question here for Albert, because at one point, Blackbeard is going to start discarding a card every turn to turn off those on-plays. So it's going to be a 5K swing into Gecko. Albert has a lot of cards in hand and usually a lot of counter in the Dofi deck. Not a lot of counterless cards, to be honest. So going to use one Gecko to save another Gecko. Love to see it. And there is the 5-cost Kuzan from Freezy, trashing itself on KO. It draws a card, and then you can play another Blackbeard Pirate from your trash. That's going to be the Shiryu for the KO there. Should be the end of Blackbeard's turn. But the question is, does he trash a card? Yes. Freezy does trash a card to activate Blackbeard's ability. So now he's also going to set up these trash in a certain way to keep track of how many additional thousands of power a Jesus Burgess would have. Usually that's how Blackbeard players like to do it. Some people like to fan out the whole deck. Some people are a little more OCD and have everything stacked up nice and neatly. But Blackbeard players like to trash and fan their deck out in sets of 4 so they know how much extra power that Burgess has. Now it's on Dofi's turn here, who is going second, so does have 6 Don available at this point. Perona getting KO'd 2 turns in a row might be hurting a little bit of Albert's strategies, but it's not like he's a big attacker to begin with. Gonna attach 1 Don to the Gecko to go swing at life. Freezy does take that hit, so now down to 4 life. Albert as well at 4. When this gets to 10, it's going to be tough for Dofi if he does not have the board flooded already with characters. 7K swing from Doflamingo, leader effect, and that's going to play out the Mihawk there. Remember, abilities turned off, so maybe if there was a more advantageous card that Albert would want to play, like a Boa Hancock or a Law or something else like that, or a Weevil, not able to. You can play it, but you're just not going to get the on-play effect. So getting the Mihawk ready for next turn so he can swing with it and do a little bit of cycling. Also, getting a hit at leader is going to be nice, but also you can draw 2 and trash 2 cards to cycle what you don't need in your hand out. 7 down turn for Freezy here. Does have a 4 cost.
5 inning, 6 inning.
Body on the field can swing into one of these 2 rested characters, but the question is, does Freezy want to use additional Don to get in there? No, it's just going to be the Shiryu into Mihawk. Like I said, Doflamingo does often have a lot of counter, but the question is, do you think you can survive multiple hits, right? Sometimes it's hard to justify countering out of 1 if you don't think you can get out of the second. Law with the counter there to get out of it, and now Freezy has to decide, do I attach Don to my leader to go for swings into these rested characters or no? Full lead stage going to be played here for 1 Don. Has to trash a card to look at the top 3 and add a Blackbeard card to their hand. Going to be another Shiryu. Has to find a way to get rid of 1 cost on these cards here. As Shiryu can KO a 3 cost the turn it's played. Six Don still available for Freezy. 10 cards in the trash. So if they did have a Tempest Kick in this deck, not every teach is running it, but in theory, if they did, they would have access to the cost reduction and the draw power. Really difficult decision for teachers. It's not just what cards you want to play. It's not just how much you want to swing with your leader into this rested character. It is also, on top of those decisions, what am I willing to trash at the end of the turn as well? So Lafitte's going to come out here as the searcher, going to cost 1 to play, and it costs an additional as it's rested to search top 5 for another Blackbeard card. It looks like Teach is really fishing for some action here. Does get another Lafitte as you're able to. Most searchers can't take themselves as a 1 cost, but because it costs 2, essentially, it's able to grab itself. That's going to be a 7K swing from Teach
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
into Albert. Has to decide if he wants to counter out of it. I think it's probably worth countering, even though you're losing cards, because you know you're going to be getting cycling around more. And there is the 3K counter, 1 Mihawk and one Teach. You knew there was no other attacks on this turn, so I think that was a smart play by Albert to counter out. It costs 4 cards in total to get there, but we got there. We're keeping the wide board for Albert, and that's the win condition. It's to just have as many bodies as you can, because the 10-drop Blackbeards can only stop 1 card or 1 attack at a time. Now it's time for Albert's 8 Don turn here. There's a lot of bodies rested, I think. On the end, Albert going to have to weigh the pros and cons of going into the bodies, into those rested characters instead of the life. Because you don't want Lafitte's just sticking around on the field. You don't want Lafitte's being able to tap every turn and letting Freezy look at the top 5 cards, because the more search opportunities you get, you already have the full lead. You've played multiple the searcher events and 2 Lafitte's here on that turn. Those are more opportunities that you can find valuable Blackbeard cards. So Gecko into Lafitte, just taking out that obviously very small body. With the 7 Don, do you attach 1 to Mihawk? You would need more than 1 if you're trying to go after Shiryu, but where is that targeting? So he's going to draw 2, trash 2. That's how the Mihawk works here. It's a 6K swing. Trashing Gum, Red Rock, and a Teach there. So losing 1K counter in hand if Freezy wants to keep track of that. Losing a big hit there, as the Red Rock's pretty good into Teach, into the 10 drop, the 10 cost blocker. So that's actually huge to reveal that you've tossed that away. Might give indication to Freezy that maybe you have access to another removal card.
How many left in him?
But it appears that that swing from Mihawk went into life, using 2 1Ks from Freezy's end to counter out of that, get up to 7. Dofi swinging as well at just the base 5 power. So the fact that Albert is on 7 Don and unwilling to play any of it shows that the Gravity Blade is coming, and that is going to bottom deck both of Teach's cards on the field there. So Albert is able to clear Teach's board, get counter out of Teach's hand as well. Overall, end cycle the cards. Who knows? Maybe he found the Gravity Blade off of the Mihawk cycling there. Draw 2, trash 2. So really effective turn for Albert in this Doflamingo deck. And Freezy on 9 Don going first. It's unfortunate when you're on 9 and you just want to play that Blackbeard, that 10 cost, and you can't do it. Looks like going to be opting for another full LED event, either to play or to trash at the end of the turn for the on-play effect. Since you already have a stage in play, you might as well trash the other full LEDs you have to use to activate your leader effect. He's on 9 Don, trying to count it out. That's going to be 3 attached to the leader, and that's 8K into life. Albert is going to take that swing. He knows there's no other attacks for the turn, but there's the liberation, KOing a 6 cost and 4 cost. So getting rid, essentially Blackbeard's Gravity Blade, but better. Absolutely crazy. Just like that, Doflamingo no longer has a board. Both of these players have wiped each other's boards back-to-back turns here. Freezy is really spreading out that trash, to show just how many boosts he would have if he were to play a Jesus Burgess. Trashing the full LED as well to turn off those on-play effects for Dofi. So now Doflamingo is on 10 Don, has access to whatever they want, cannot use on-play effects. You can just play a character straight down. There might be some value in playing a Boa Hancock or some other important things, but you still have your leader effect from Doflamingo. Decides not to use it, just the 7K swing, which Freezy will take. So not playing a character down. There is a Boa Hancock being played out, as well as another Mihawk. So getting 2 bodies out here on this turn for Albert. Pretty successful considering you don't have effects, right? You're still able to take a life on Freezy's end and establish 2 bodies on the board. He just used Deliberation, so the odds that there's another one in hand are definitely less likely. Certainly still an option. Still something Albert has to worry about. But less likely that this Boa and Mihawk can be dealt with. Freezy does have 10 Don, and this is every Blackbeard player's dream. Getting to that 10 Don turn, I would say relatively unscathed. I mean, 2 health is pretty solid for Teach at this point, 2 life. A lot of times they'll have to take a little bit more than that because their hand size is lower from trashing cards every turn. But 2 life for Freezy remaining on this 10 Don turn. You know he's considering, do I drop all 10 down right now on a Blackbeard blocker? And from Albert's end, not a lot of cards in hand. Only 3 cards in hand. Looks like 4 cards in hand for Freezy. We'll have to trash one at the end of the turn, so we might get neutral here. But a very difficult turn for Freezy to decide what to do on the first 10 Don turn. You can play a Blackbeard, make it so that Mihawk can't attack next turn to nullify the attack. And that way, Mihawk is not able to cycle anymore. Because the condition is when attacking for Mihawk. 4 stacks of 4 for Freezy as well. So if you played a Burgess, it would be a 9K body. boosting itself by 4,000. But if you play a Burgess, you're not playing your Blackbeard blocker, right? That's the tough call here for Freezy. One way around it is you could have other blockers like Vasco Shot in the deck. So you can play a Burgess and a Vasco Shot, or Burgess and Katarina can give herself blocker. First up, we're going to use the full lead event. Trashing a Tempest Kick. So losing some KO power, especially as we mentioned how strong Tempest Kick is in this matchup against Doflamingo, hitting 95% of the deck. Opting for Kuzan. Now we have 10 Don still. If you use 5 of it on Kuzan, which is exactly what Freezy is going to do, activate main, KO itself, draw a card from that KO, and then Kuzan gets to play another Blackbeard character. Going to go with the Van Augur, which is able to rest itself on this turn to give another character -3 cost. Who's that going to go for? Then he gets the KO there. He's going to rest them both at the same time. Doc Q and Van Augur. We understand. We understand how it works, right? Van Augur and then Doc Q. We're picking up what Freezy's putting down. That's the KO on Boa. Going to trash the event to stop the on plays. So deciding on that turn not to play Dofi, or excuse me, not to play Blackbeard, not to play blocker if he had it in hand, which we don't know what is in his hand. Maybe he's still searching for it. But I will say, Freezy, it's not the worst. It's not the worst idea in the world. Get some bodies out, get a KO on that Boa, and also you might not be in such urgent threat or urgent need to play the Blackbeard since Freezy still has 2 life. Maybe it was a little bit. It could have been greedy or something to play it while so healthy. If Albert has access to another bottom decking card like the Red Rock.
Can I see your trash?
Seems to be a conversation going on right now. Albert looking to see what is in Freezy's trash. He's going to see some Kuzans, 1 Jesus Burgess, a lot of events. So a lot of powerful events are in the trash right now for Freezy. But what I think Albert is looking for is there are no 10 cost Blackbeard blockers in the trash right now, meaning that either Freezy has them in his hand, or he has access to drawing them out and searching them out with full lead every turn, or they're in the life. Basically, Albert has to wonder, when do these Blackbeards start coming down onto the board to really just mess my game plan up? And what can Albert do with this 10 Don? The tough part is if you just fled the board right now, Albert has no on-play abilities. So if you just hard cast characters and then use the Doflamingo effect to get some bodies out, then you're giving Teach 1 more additional access of a turn to finding the Blackbeard and playing it out. That's going to be the 5K swing for Mihawk. Freezy takes it, no trigger. Mihawk does not get to use its draw effect because he did not have a Don attached. This will be the 7K swing. 7K swing from Albert. Reveals it was not a Warlord, though, so doesn't get any value out of it. And then the Red Rock is into Van Augur here. I'm not sure how many Red Rocks you play in this. This is a new meta for us. But Freezy has to feel good seeing 2 mid-level characters, mid-power characters, getting Red Rocked in this match. Or technically, 1 was trash and 1 was Red Rocked. And none of them being used on the Blackbeard bodies, has to feel confident that that's going to help for Teach. He is down to 0 life, however. So if he doesn't play the Blackbeard here, he's in a tough spot. Going to go for the stronger, off a search for a 2K. Because if you play Blackbeard, there is no rush in Doflamingo's deck. You can nullify Mihawk's attack next turn. There it is, exactly. Turn off the ability. Nullify the attack. And with no rush, they can't come in and swing there. Doflamingo's going to take that life, so now it's 1 life to 0. Freezy is feeling good, especially if he can chain Blackbeard blockers back-to-back turns. That's going to be the best way to do it. Trashes the Burgess to turn off those on-play abilities. So I believe Freezy has 4 cards in hand. Actually, much more than I thought. 4 cards in hand for Freezy. We know he just picked up a 2K counter as well. So can't be too worried. Mihawk cannot attack. Dofi's in a tough spot. Albert has no on-play abilities. I think Teach has stalled this game out enough to a spot that the Blackbeards are going to work. But Albert has a 3rd Red Rock. 3 Red Rocks played in this game on Albert's end. Freezy has the counter to get out of it, though. I think Albert thought with 0 life, if I just spend 6 on Red Rock and swing 9, I can get the game. But Freezy had the counter with Blackbeard to stay alive right now. Absolutely huge play. 3 Red Rocks out of Albert in this game. And it's still not enough to take out Teach. Now, that's the first thing I would do too, Freezy, is look and see how many darn Red Rocks do you have in this deck? Because I don't want you just spent 3 cards countering, right?
I really don't like.
I don't want to play
right,
another
I don't like
Blackbeard
like
if it's just
shit.
going to get Red Rocked. That's the scary part. Teach has 10 Don, but only 2 cards. So in theory, if those last 2 cards are 10 drop and whatever, turns out it wasn't. It was Shiryu looking for the 10. He found the 10 drop. He got it. So now, Freezy has 2 cards in hand. One is 10 drop Blackbeard, which will nullify Mihawk's ability to attack next turn and turn off Albert's abilities. And then he has to trash his other card in hand to negate Doflamingo's character on play abilities. So Freezy will have to go down to 0 cards in hand. Meaning if this Blackbeard gets Red Rocked again, if Dofi somehow has access to 4 hard removal cards in this matchup to take out the Blackbeards, then Freezy is in trouble. He's going to swing 5 into life. Albert has to decide with the 4 cards in hand. There's some Sengokus. I see a Crocodile 2K as well. So he certainly has the counter to get out of it. Stay at 1 for sure. You do not want to go down to 0. There's the Blackbeard, turning off Mihawk's attack, turning off Dofi's ability. And then you just do you trash? Do you trash the card? I think Freezy's trying to decide right now. If you trash the card, Teach goes down to no cards in hand. So if Albert can get swings through, Freezy cannot get out of it. Very close matchup here. Again, counting Albert's cards in the trash to see what's going on. Incredibly close here in round 4 between Freezy and Albert. This has been a really fun match back and forth. I can't believe he's played 3 Red Rocks against Blackbeard. Freezy looked really solid once we got to that 10 Don turn. And fortunately had enough counter to save it. Freezy decides not to turn off on play abilities with that 1 card in hand. Now, it might not matter that much anyway. As I said, there's no rush for Albert. Like, you can't try to get multiple swings here. Albert only has access to 1 swing this turn with Doflamingo. And if you just go 15 onto, I guess you technically need to do 14 to get out of the Blackbeard hit. 14 on the leader swing, then he just blocks Blackbeard, and then uses the 2 swings with Doc Q and leader on the next turn to try to go for game. So it's not out of the woodworks yet for Albert and Doflamingo. With access to 10 Don, I believe 4 cards in hand. We saw Jozu. Jozu's a big body. I believe there's a Law and a Crocodile in there from what I can see from Albert's perspective. Nothing absolutely crazy valuable. And I think it's a Sengoku for a searcher. So might want to play Sengoku just to get some more counter, and then swing 14 at life. And he has to block with Blackbeard. So that's going to be the first thing here. Sengoku's played. Albert's thinking alike here. Look at these top 5 cards, showing that he has 9 Don left over, splitting it into looking like an 8+1. Maybe there's another searcher situation. Albert doing math with the Don remaining, deciding what to look for. It's going to be the Boa, okay? Takes Boa in this spot. He's going to spend 4 Don to play the Boa because Freezy did not turn off on play effects this turn. That one card in his hand that he kept instead of trashing allows Albert to stack his deck, get Boa on the field, and play a second Boa with his remaining 4 Don, so it's 1 Don untapped, to give Dofi 2 rested Don, and had enough for his leader effect to play Weevil and draw a card. What a turn from Albert there. The decision by Freezy to not turn off on-play effects for 1 turn, and Albert absolutely takes advantage of it. Gains 4 bodies on board, 2 blockers as well. So now Freezy's in a really, really tough spot. He trashes the Blackbeard on the full lead search. Gonna spend 1 more again for another full lead. Has to trash it and trash the finger pistol in his hand. We're coming down to time here too. So incredibly close. Looks for a Lafitte. Plays Lafitte, searches with Lafitte, but he only has 7 Don left. So unless it's a Liberation, there's nothing he can do. Even with Liberation, killing the blockers still would not have been enough. And Albert has some cards in hand for counter. Absolutely massive play by Albert. The 1 turn all game he had access to on-play abilities, and he clutches it up. Moving on to 4-0 here at the Illustrious Cards and Games One Piece Store Championship. That was a hype matchup. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with round 5.
Tough matchup.
All right, let's get into it. Here we are for round 5 of the Illustrious Cards and Games One Piece TCG Store Championship. These are two names we're familiar with from the stream already. Today, I am Zemanon on commentary. We have 6 rounds of Swiss to determine our store champion. So this is round 5, very important between Brian and Silent Quack. Silent Quack on the OPO7 Bonnie. Brian with that crazy win over Katakuri earlier on stream, needing to get through in 3 hits, needing to get through or survive, I should say. Brian had to survive an 11K swing, a 12K swing, and a 13K swing at life.
Not bad.
Took the first life, took the 11, took the 12, and the 13,000 power swing. Brian had enough counter to get out of it and win the game. Absolutely crazy finish to that earlier here today. So let's see how this matchup is going to go. I think Reiju is in a very solid spot in the meta right now. We'll see how the meta shapes up with the with this post-ban meta game here, but could be a leader specialist with Brian, with all the Reiju sleeves and the full art Reiju and all the full arts and everything. Might be one of their favorite decks. So love seeing that. Brian deciding to mulligan. Looks like Quack is mulling it over if he wants to keep it out. Do you see a Hody Jones in Quack's hands? So Hody Jones decides doesn't need it to start with right now. Should be a fun matchup, but Reiju is kind of people are sleeping on it. It's not what everyone's calling the S tier, like Shanks and Bonnie and Blackbeard and Zoro and whatnot, right? And Purple Luffy probably rounds at your top 5 of the meta. Most people in their conversations. Maybe there's a 6th one in there. But Reiju essentially got buffed by Black getting nerfed, right? In theory, very tough matchup into Lucci. I'm not actually sure how Black Yellow Luffy would go into it because I didn't see much experience of it from. I would anticipate it'd be pretty solid for Black Yellow Luffy. So a lot of Reiju's bad matchups, kind of the inverse Usopp, where Usopp got nerfed because his good matchups got banned. Now Reiju kind of got buffed because her bad matchups got nerfed, right? So I think has a chance to, Brian showing right now has a chance to come away with the championship here today at Illustrious. Using that Sanji searcher, getting the stage, access to the stage, which is huge for Brian. Because now with that 2-down turn, you can just get your stage set up immediately. That's what all decks that have a stage in them want to do. They want to just immediately get that stage on the field for the rest of the game. Putting the ICG in the trash immediately, and would you look at that, searching away the small ICG right away. As perfect of a first turn as Brian could possibly ask for. Now maybe you maybe want a Reiju here and there. We might have a Reiju in his hand, but you hit a searcher, you hit stage, and you hit the 4-7 combo for ICG. Silent Quack's just going to swing 7 into life, and Brian takes that first life, wanting to get more opportunities, more things to see. He is at 4 Don right now compared to Quack's 3, so if he wants to use that effect, he'd have to use the Don minus, get down to 3, and take it. Sanji does get tapped from Bonnie's ability, and Bonnie counters out of the 5K swing, or should at least, or is considering it. But I think you don't. There's no reason to take that damage. Yes. So that's going to be the counter. Stay as healthy as you can for now. If you're on Quack's end, who Quack had a pretty strong performance in their earlier victory on stream. That's gonna be the Porsche searcher. So that's down -1 to get you down to 3. Does he hit? He hits the big Reiju, the 4-cost Reiju. Can he find a small one? No, we'll have to instead opt for Chopper. Chopper's actually searchable off of the Porsche, but the secondary effect of playing a 4-cost or 4K power or less character there gives you the ICG to play off of Porsche. And now trying to decide, do I activate it? Yes, absolutely. Brian going to activate, have that rush from 7-cost ICG and take a life, quack down to 4 life. So very solid play. Very solid play from Brian there. His first 2 turns have been actually incredible. That's what I do want to give a lot of credit here. I think Brian on this Reiju is actually really what he wants to do so far on these first 2 turns.
What?
Like draw power is nice and all from the Reiju character, but it's the Ichiji, it's the body, it's the power that's really going to help in this matchup, especially once Quack starts to establish a kid potentially. You're going to want to have that on-play Ichiji effect to lower the power and swing into it. So we'll see what Quack can do here on the 5 Don turn. Looking potentially just swinging 5. Do you choose to swing into Sanji just to not give Brian more resources? It would take a character away, so that's one less quote-unquote threat on Brian's end. But no, it actually went towards life instead, and Brian just countering with the chopper that he gained off of Porsche. We'll play a Carrot. Carrot is going to keep Ichiji rested there. Carrot on play, and when attacking is to freeze, essentially freezing one of your opponent's 7 costs or less. And Ichiji is a 7 cost, so nice play for Bonnie. Going to have to find a way to continue to chain those carrots either with on plays or with attacking to keep Ichiji there, because you could argue Quack doesn't even want to KO the Ichiji. You don't want to give Brian more access to the Germa characters in the trash. If he's stuck on the board frozen every turn, then Brian can't use it as its on-play effect and get that rush and give that that power reduction. So we'll see what Silent Quack's plan is to keep Ichiji frozen solid. Now, Brian's intending on swinging for 5K, like no Don attachment, it really doesn't matter too much if you swing with your leader or swing with Porsche, because you're just trying to get in there first. And because there is no extra Don on Silent Quack's end, you don't have to worry about who is going or any of your characters getting tapped, right? Bonnie's leader effect is not active this turn since Silent Quack has no extra Don. So just get a 5K swing in there first, and that will be with Reiju using the Scratchman of Pooh counter, and then swinging in with Porsche right after. I like how Brian is playing out these turns. That will be a hit at life. Seeing Silent Quack give up a 2K 2 times on multiple 5K swings into life means he might not have as many great counter cards or cards he can really live without, really. Some of those 1K counters in hands, he might absolutely need those in the deck. It's going to play out. Brian's going to play out Chopper and the Baby Reiju to get the 4 cost out. Having less Don active, obviously, it's going to allow Brian to draw those cards. And now trashing a card to search again with the stage. Yeah, I think Brian's had really as fantastic of a first couple of turns as you can imagine on this Reiju team, on this Reiju deck. The whole team, the whole German team, but it's a Reiju deck. She's the one in charge here in the trading card game. Now it's passed back over to Silent Quack. Should be on 7 Don. At least bare minimum, you have the carrot swing to keep Ichiji rested. So carrot is a 5/6. You might have to attach one more Don somewhere to, or might attach one Don to carrot to make it a 7K swing into Porsche. Make it just a little more difficult for Brian to get out of that swing. However, Reiju does have a lot of counter and a lot of cards in hand. Look at those, a massive amount of cards in hand. So Quack has to realize or how to utilize his Don efficiently. It will be a 6K swing into Porsche, freezing Ichiji. and just a simple 2K. That's why I was hoping there'd be a way to get a 7K swing and force 2 cards out of Brian's hand. Now it's another 6K swing into Porsche. Brian deciding if I should counter out. If you counter out of the first one, you probably should counter out of this one as well, even if it costs you 2 cards like it does. That costs 2 1Ks, but it's absolutely worth it. And so now another carrot comes down. But this time around, crucially, Quack is able to leave a Don up. So Brian's in a spot with a full board of five characters. However, 2 of them are frozen. Quack is chaining carrots at this point with both on play and when attacking, so that next turn, if Brian does not deal with this rested carrot, he can keep 2 characters frozen at the same time. Appears to have 6 Don for Brian here on this turn. So what can Brian do with 6 Don? First things first, resting the stage, deciding to trash an ICG to get it in there, and hoping to find another baby ICG in the search there. He does find the baby ICG. That will have, not only will have rush once he uses that effect, but it can also lower the attack by 2,000 power of this carrot and make it so much easier to attack into this rested carrot. I think that's very important for Brian to at least get rid of 1 carrot on the board right now. There's 4. He would have 2 Don left over since Brian has 6 Don. There is the 4 replacing Sanji. Oh, 1 second. Brian's trying to do the math here. I think you replace Sanji with Ichiji, activate leader effect, play the 7 cost Ichiji, give power reduction to the rested carrot, and swing with rush right into that rested carrot. Not every Bonnie deck is playing 5 cost Bonnies along with the carrots. Some of them do, but most of them really do prefer the carrot. So you don't have to worry about it getting chained consecutively. And there it is, Brian going for the baby Ichiji, activating Reiju's effect, playing it out. I believe he targeted down the carrot for the power reduction and is swinging into it with rush. Silent Quack is a really tough call to make here because that would be a lot of counter. That would be a lot of counter to get out of this swing. You're going to tap the other Reiju, which is fine. Now, however, remember, not only is it a lot of counter just to get out of the 7K swing from ICG, might really not be worth it. Brian still has leader attack on this turn. So the odds that this carrot's going to make it through the turn, I don't know if it is worth it to lose resources for. Exactly. So Silent Quack will just allow that attack to go through and send carrot to the trash. There are now 2 rested Ichijis on the field. Silent Quack is going to want to try to find a way to keep them rested. However, if you play a Doflamingo or something, a 10 cost, you're not going to have access to the leader ability. So Bonnie's in a pretty tough spot right now. Next turn. Brian's turn is not over yet. Still has some actions to make. Going to be a 5K swing into life. Using that counter to stay healthy. And the remaining 2 Don for a baby Reiju. Activating the effect again. Drawing two cards here. This is a stacked board that Brian has had. For anyone looking to get back into Reiju and trying to see if Reiju is solid, I think the answer is yes. Brian's proving it at 4-0 right now. Or here in round 5, as you say, at the top tables. Brian proving it. Reiju has some effectiveness, and you're seeing why the synergy is so strong. Pretty much the whole deck is searchable, except for a couple of the Foxy cards like Porsche and Chopper, and they're not necessarily important enough to be searched. But then you still have the Porsche synergy with the German units to play out the baby versions of them. There's an incredible amount of counter in the Reiju deck. She continues to reflood her hand with both Reiju's leader effect of drawing a card when you once per turn when you reduce a Don, and also from the big Reiju character drawing 2 cards. So I think Brian's got to feel pretty confident right now. What can Silent Quack do on this turn? 9 Don turn. So this doesn't even feel like a good kid turn right now because Quack does not have a Cavendish out, does not have a Smoker out on the field to restand Don for Bonnie. So if you were to play kid this turn to taunt, to redirect, then you'd use all 9 of your available Don to do that. 8 to play kid and then 1 for the attachment to force the taunt. Carrot is going to swing 6K into Porsche and freeze one of the 2 ETGs. But that's going to be a 2K counter for Brian. So this Porsche has been like an incredible blocker, has tanked so many hits. You can either give another counter or use the chopper. I think there's probably no harm in just the counter. Save chopper for later. Brian has a lot of cards in hand, but he has used a lot of those resources. He's used multiple Reijus at this point.
Oh, this one is frozen? Yep.
That's the tough spot. So there's the Shanks. Shanks KOing a rested character will KO 1 ETG and Carrot freezes the other. However, Bonnie was on 9 Don, so Silent Quack does not have access to leader effect right now. She cannot tap another card on swing for Brian. So Brian's going to start it off trashing one stage for the other to continue searching along, and that's going to get the event out for Brian. That's not the Gamma Knife. I believe that's the Black Bug event. If I'm correct. He's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 Don. Brian's been able to accomplish all of this with just 6 Don. Really, in these first, I believe it's 5th actual turn of the game for Brian. Those first 4 turns have been very effective. But now, Silent Quack has a big body on the field. He has an answer, especially next turn. It's very difficult, even with the amount of counter Brian has, to have enough counter to get through an 11K swing. So Porsche's going to go 5 into life for Quack. Remember, no leader effect for Bonnie. So it does not rest the character Reiju or the leader Reiju. Going to be a Carrot counter. That's most people probably run 3 Carrots in their deck. Maybe you'll see Extreme 4th every once in a while, but that should be a sign for Brian that all the Carrots have been used up. He doesn't have to worry about the freeze anymore, unless 5-cost Bonnies are in the deck, or a Dofi, obviously, but Dofi would be a tough spot. Now the character Reiju is swinging in at life. Quack counting his cards, seeing if he wants to counter out. And I think that's the right call. A Pooh with the counter, so that's a 2K being used to counter out to keep it safe. And Brian still has a leader effect. Or leader attack, excuse me. So that is a 7K swing into life. Silent Quack takes that. Going down to 2 life. Brian up 3-2 in life right now. But Silent Quack is on 10 Don. So Bonnie feels super fine at this point with 2 life and a big body on the field. Shanks is going to KO whatever target it wants with how strong that is. Silent Quack with the 5K into Porsche. So Brian has to be careful here and has to counter out of that. Exactly. Because if you don't, then you're going to lose 2 characters on this turn instead of just the 1. You'd lose the blocker and you would lose the Porsche, right? That's Doflamingo. You don't need the Bonnie effect if you can just play a 10 cost that keeps 3 rested characters frozen. All Silent Quack had to do was to get to 10 Don, and the game has completely shifted with the Dofi on the board, with an 11K swing from Shanks every turn, essentially as a nuke button, will delete any target it wants every turn, wherever it attacks into. Absolutely huge play by Silent Quack. Now Porsche, ICG, and Reiju are all rested. Brian should have 8 Don. I believe it's 8 Don right now. Yes, that is 8 Don. It's going to be 3 for a Porsche, Don -1. Searching the top 5, hoping to find something, but if not, still having access to play a little body. Finds a blocker. That's huge. Finds the chopper. I was kind of wondering if Brian has the judge or not, and you just say screw it, KO your own characters. They're all rested anyway. They're gonna get chain rested. But will play the baby ICG. Brian has seen so much of his deck here and has been able to see so many crucial cards. The third baby ICG of the game, Brian's been able to play. Activate that leader effect. Putting a Don back. Getting the big one out. Bringing Chicks down to a 9K power. So it is 7K ICG right now. 7K power. 9,000 into Shanks. The 7's going to go into life. Instead of trying to add that additional 5 Don that he has onto the ICG, then you could do a 12 into a 9 if he added that additional Don. That would be 12K into 9. Silent Quack would need to have 2 2Ks in hand, just using a Scratchman of Pooh on the last turn. Had a 2K and a 1K. So with the amount of cards in hand, seems likely. Actually, only has 2 cards left. If those are both face cards, that actually could have been tough. If Brian stacked all the Don onto ICG to try to KO Shanks. Might have been difficult for Silent Quack to get out of. I guess we'll never know, but has gotten those cards out of life or out of hand. Now going towards life, as this is an 8K swing. Reversing for a second, Brian. If you're leaving 2K or 2 Don up, that implies to me that you want to play another baby Reiju or potential chopper, as we did get the chopper from the Porsche search earlier on this turn. So this is an 8K swing at life. Silent Quack takes it, goes down to 1, gets rid of the Reiju, the rested Reiju, for an active Porsche. So that's one less. That's one less character that a chain Doflamingo, if you play a second one, would be able to rest. Now it's active. There is the 4th ICG. In hand, Brian's seen all 4 7-cost ICGs in this game. It does not have counter though, right? So if Silent Quack wants to go for some hits here, you know that Brian did not gain another card advantage in counter. So if he has 5 cards in hand, really it's only 4 of them you potentially have to worry about. Bonnie with the 5K swing into Porsche, into the rested Porsche. And he's going to let that go, knowing that you just have another swing with KO it anyway. You don't even need to play a Doflamingo if you're just going to KO the whole board. So ICG goes down, and now Dofi, I think you go into the other ICG to force the blocker chopper. To force the block. He's going to look here. So, okay, smart play. See how many Reijus are in the trash. See how many ICGs, which I believe it is 2 ICGs. The 3rd's on the board and the 4th is in the hand. If Dofi just swings at ICG, you might want to attach some Don to bring that up to, say, an 11K swing. But that's going towards life instead. And you don't need it. That's actually a perfect play by Silent Quack. 9 Don, takes a life, KOs both ECGs on the board and a Porsche, and keeps Bonnie's leader effect active. Perfect play from Silent Quack. That's exactly what you want to see from Bonnie players, using that Don efficiently. Not only is Doflamingo incredible at freezing and slowing the game down, but then the power of an 11k swing Shanks and 10k swings Dofi, KOing 2 characters, and then the on-play effect from the second Shanks. This is how 2 times in a row we've seen Silent Quack play 2 Shanks in a game, which you don't get to see too often since, it's an unsearchable card. And they're not running that many compared to, maybe Bonnie players run 4 Hody Jones or 4 Uses Kids. You're not really running 4 Shanks, right? So that's a big play from Silent Quack. He is down in life still. It's 2-1 in Brian's lead in life total. But stage is going to be rested and used to gain that Sora 2K in hand. Brian having even more counter. We saw just how massive every little bit of counter can be in Brian's prior matchup against Katakuri.
How much on that?
Porsche with the 9k swing into life. And Silent Quack is considering it here. 1, do I tap? Because the question is, do you tap Chopper so he doesn't have a blocker next turn? Or do you tap the leader since the leader is already 5k power, significantly stronger, obviously, than Chopper, and you don't want to take more damage? I would be so comfortable with all my big bodies that I feel like you take the leader down. Who cares if Brian has a bunch of blockers? You have so many powerful characters on the board right now for Quack that next turn you can just keep swinging. And even if he blocks with Chopper, you're fine. So 4 Don was used to bring this Porsche swing up, meaning Brian only has 1 or 5 Don left. Let's see the 1 in the Don zone. So he has 9 active on his total on this turn. He takes the swing. Brian's going to search here with another Porsche, so playing all his Porsches here in this game. We see the ECGs in the trash. I mean, we know he had one in hand from last turn. If he has the baby ECG, he can play it here, activate, give it rush, and there it is. And then he has 2 more power. That's a 9k swing. Bonnie has 4 cards in hand. Is it enough to get out of this? Did they gain counter from that last life card? Silent Quack's doing the math. He's looking. 3 cards now left. Can he get there? Brian might have just rushed his way into round 6. It looks like Quack is deciding, so I think he has the safety of it. There's the 0-3. So he got out of the swing. The 0-3 end to 2K. Justice for Silent Quack. Stays alive. There's the Hody Jones resting the blocker. He now has 5 massive swings, a 7, 8, 2, a 10, and 2 11s. But Brian has a lot of cards in hand. Okay, so the 7K is blocked. Hody Jones with a 9. That's going to be a trigger to draw a card. That might be more counter for Brian. Shanks. Getting there. Gets out of the Shanks swing. And it's not enough for the final Shanks. So Silent Quack is going to come out with the victory. That was so close. Brian played those first 3 or 4 turns like as every Rage U player wants, just seeing everything he wanted in this matchup. But Silent Quack, once the Shanks came out, the Shanks Dofi Shanks combo there was so huge for Bonnie, and Silent Quack's going to win that one. Thank you all so much for watching along. here with us at the Illustrious Cards and Games One Piece Store Championship. We'll be right back with the 6th and final round of Swiss.
Dave with that. I think I get checked. Let's go. How have your matches been? Are you around here? I've seen people with that shirt.
Yeah.
You're from like, is this like your local? Or?
No, this isn't my local. I play a lot at the official store, Mitsuo.
All right, everybody, let's get into it here. Round
That's what this was,
6,
like,
our
It's-
final
yeah,
round of
yeah.
Swiss
That's cool, that's
at
sick.
our
How about you?
illustrious cards and games One Piece trading card game store championship. We have 2 matches. We've been running 2 matches all day here for everybody. We hope you've been enjoying it with us. I'm Zemanon on the call for this last round with you all day. Having a lot of fun seeing how this meta is shaping out here at Illustrious. We have a lot of great players in the area every week. It's always fun. So let's crown a store champion. How does that sound? In this matchup, so we technically have our 2 matches. The other match is getting deck checked right now for the finals. So this is our other match that we're running here. And this is Tissue Slayer versus Terrence, a Usopp versus Shanks matchup. Our second Usopp on the day. We've had some Shankses in our second match of our rounds, but those matches were finishing a little too quickly to be shown. So technically our first Shanks being shown on stream today, second different Usopp, and this is the top 4 quote unquote matchup, or who knows how the resistances are gonna break after the final round. But yes, these 2 are definitely trying to stay and remain in the top 4 of this store championship. I think this matchup should be pretty fun to see how it works. There's also a lot of different conversations on what type of Shanks build is it, right? Is it the Straw Hat version? Is it the Zoo version? Is it a Red Hair Pirates version? Is it just a Red Good Stuffs, or maybe an event heavy version? Or I know some crazy people like to do like a whole bunch of like power reduction or increased version, like you run the Yasop and the Whitebeards and all these other cards to keep your Shanks in a much more control-y, like defensive environment. So I feel like there's a lot of different ways that you can play Shanks right now in the meta, and it's not really one guaranteed successful way. That's what I'm excited to see how this works out and how Tissue Slayer is going to be prepared for this matchup, as I've been very excited for Usopp in set 10 as a Dressrosa character and archetype fan myself, as a big Rebecca player back in the day, seeing the quote unquote new and improved Rebecca in Usopp. Speaking of Rebecca, there she is for the first play of the game. Gonna search 3 cards, taking a Dressrosa card other than Rebecca, so unfortunately cannot take the 7 cost. It is funny how that works out, where both Rebecca, the 7 cost Rebecca, and the traditional 4 cost black Rebecca that's very popular are not as great in the Dressrosa decks with a Rebecca Searcher, because if you pass over it, you can't take it. 6K swing from Usopp into life for Terrence. Waiting a second to take that up. I believe that was a building snake that he picked up. So he does have some power reduction available in Terrence's hand, down to 4 life. Both leaders at 4 life now. Oh, but you know what? As this match is going on, I believe the table 1 matchup had as quick of a deck check as they did. Let's go. Okay, awesome. So we'll get back to Terrence and Tissue if this match goes quickly. But for now, we really do want to focus on this finals here. The winner here is going to be our store champion, Albert with Doflamingo, and Quack. He's the third time we're seeing Silent Quack on the stream here with Bonnie. Going into this event, if you told me the finals was going to be Dofi and Bonnie, I could have absolutely seen it. I thought Shanks obviously had potential. I thought maybe some Zoro could get in on the fun. We haven't seen Zoro at all today. I wonder how the Zoro players are performing in the room. But Doflamingo is certainly not dead. The overemphasized his death by losing Jinbei, right? Greatly exaggerated, as they say. The death of Doflamingo, as it's still an incredibly strong deck. Now, into Bonnie should be an interesting matchup. I know that for Bonnie, in most people's thoughts is like it's kind of okay, right? Because Bonnie is able, sure, Doflamingo spits a lot of bodies out on the board, but Bonnie's able to rest them. So it's not like Dofi is getting as many swings available into Bonnie as he might have into some other decks. So I think this should be a pretty fun match between Albert and Silent Quack. Let us know in chat down below who you're rooting for, Albert and Doflamingo, or Silent Quack and Bonnie. One of these two will be our store champion. Players are getting set up. Looks like Silent Quack has mulliganed. Did not like that opening hand. And that was an absolutely riveting round 5 Silent Quack had over Brian in the Reiju. That was a crazy matchup. How much fun that was. So we'll see if Silent Quack can do it again. Win on stream again. Albert didn't need to mulligan, so he would just liked his hand and kept it moving.
Good luck. Good luck, Hassan.
Good luck
Thank you.
to Albert and Silent Quack. 30 minutes on the clock. Albert's going first, which is nice for Dofi. You're on that odd curve. Most of your characters cost an even amount, and then you have that additional 1 extra Don you would need to rest to activate Dofi's ability. And starting off with Teach here on the 3 Don turn. Activate Teach. Activate main. I think an incredible card, this Marshall D Teach. Put a card from your hand to the top of your deck and give your leader 2 rested Don. That's exactly what Dofi needs for the 2 rested Don. Tapping the other one, swinging 7, taking the life from Quack, and getting a Weevil out on the board to draw a card. So very strong start here on this 3 Don turn from Albert. Now it's up to Silent Quack. With 4 Don, you still don't have a lot available right now. Very smart to just take down Teach immediately. Teach is a really strong card. However, if it only gets 1 activation off, you can live with it. If Teach is able to stick on the board for 2 or 3 turns, really tough for the amount of quote-unquote free swings you're giving Doflamingo every turn. So will KO Teach, plays a Rosinante blocker in that spot, and keeps 1 Don active, meaning that Albert most likely is not going to be able to swing with Weevil on this turn, as Silent Quack has access to Bonnie's leader effect. Once per turn, you can rest 1 Don to rest one of your opponent's characters or leaders, and you're going to want to use your leader effect with Dofi, so very likely Weevil not going to get a swing on this turn. Albert playing down the Sengoku to look at his top 5 cards for Warlord. See who he wants to add to the hand. Maybe even potentially whatever card he adds to the hand, like say Boa Hancock, which is the card that Albert chooses. You can even play it on this turn 2 off of your leader effect. That's going to be 2 more. 2 more Don. Is that another Teach? That is another Teach that's really strong for Albert here. Having access to 2 Teaches in hand to start the game. Activate effect. Put a card on top of your deck. And this is what Dofi wants to do every turn. He attached 1 manually and then used the Teach effect. And it's going to be that Boa that he just drew from Sengoku. So no Jinbei, no problems, team, because Dofi is still flying on all cylinders right now. Has the Boa, stacks the top 3 cards of the deck the way Albert wants to, and will give another rested Don to the Dofi leader here. The question is, does Quack want to use the Rosinante blocker to eat this 9K swing from Albert? He's also debating if he wants to rest the Weevil. So here's the thing. Does Silent Quack want to rest the Weevil so that Albert doesn't get any more attacks out this turn? or do you rest the Teach to get rid of that activate main every turn? At the cost of a Weevil swing this turn. That's exactly what Quack goes for. Blocking the swing, resting Teach, and then now has to take this 6K swing, uses the 2K to get out of it. So it only cost him 1 card. I think ultimately that was the correct play from Quack. Another 5K swing into Teach here to get that off the board. Quack, understanding the value that Teach has in the Doflamingo deck, doesn't want to deal with it. Carrot is going to freeze Boa Hancock. So now on Albert's turn here, Boa is not able to restand. Boa will not be able to block on defense. And Quack, importantly, keeps 1 Don active for this Bonnie. Now it's Doflamingo's, I believe, 7 Don turn. Yes, we're on 7 Don here for Dofi. This is a turn. This would have been a huge turn if the Teach was still on the board. Still could be a lot of value for Dofi here, but would have been even more. So smart of Quack to get it. And a 3rd Marshall D Teach in this game for Albert. We saw Albert play 3 Red Rocks last time on stream. Now he's played 3 Teaches here in the first 3 turns. Unbelievable value. Activate main, give that 2K power to Dofi, essentially giving him a free leader effect because Teach costs 2 and Teach's ability gives 2 rested Don. So you're always going to have 2 rested Don if you played the Teach. Leader effect for 7. That's going to be the Weevil to draw another card, and he's going to rest the other Weevil. Will he counter out? It's going to cost that minimum 2 cards for Silent Quack to counter out of this. So far, Silent Quack has not even swung at life because he's been too busy swinging at Teach every turn. It's almost like Teach is incredible activate main ability, but also has blocker or has like Eustace Kid taunt essentially. Because if Teach is rested, you're swinging into that thing. There's just no option. That's going to be the 0 cost event used with, I believe, a Doflamingo there to get up to 8K power to get over this 7K swing. Dofi still has 4K or 4 Don available, so we'll switch out the Sengoku for a Gecko Moria to get a Warlord back in hand. Oh my goodness, and it was another Teach. It was one of the 2 Teaches that have already been KO'd. Now, theoretically, Dofi could play 5 Teaches this game if he wanted to. Maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe might be a little bit overkill, if you ask me. Could be a little bit of overkill. But still, incredible. Albert has had the deck construction has absolutely been working out in Albert's favor here today at our store championship. Now on Silent Quack's 8 Don turn. 7 would give you 7 is Hody Jones, right? So you got to think there. This is a 6K swing into. I think you swing into Weevil and freeze Boa still, so she can't block. That's probably the way to go. Silent Quack is considering which of these 6K bodies. There are 3 rested 6K bodies, right? So he's considering which of them do I swing into, and then which do I freeze. I would imagine you freeze the Boa just so you don't have to deal with the blocker. But on 7 Don, if Silent Quack has a Hody Jones, you can play it, rest the Teach, have your Bonnie swing into Teach again. But is it even worth it? Because you just saw Albert bring another Teach back to his hand from Gecko Moria. So there it is. Okay, Hody Jones, he's going to do it. He's going to rest Teach and Gecko. Definitely understand where Quack is coming from. So 6 into 5, forcing a 2K out of Albert's hand. I like this play by Quack. He's saying, no, I'd rather not give up a 2K. I want to save my other characters. And now Hody into Weevil, that's going to cost multiple cards. Doesn't want to do it. And 5 into Teach. Now, to me, yeah, there's literally no reason to save the Teach because you already have another one in your hand. Right. Albert understands. Quack gaining a card to hand from taking the life off of Hody Jones, clearing 3 bodies out on that turn. That's a really strong play. Really solid turn from Silent Quack here. Next turn will be on 10 Don, having access to a potential Eustace Kid plus Taunt plus Bonnie Leader still active turn if he wants, or say play his Shank, something like that. So Silent Quack has some options. But what are Albert's options on this turn on 9 Don? Looks like he's fanning his Don out, trying to do the math. If you're looking at in 6 Don increments, that would be a Red Rock. However, if you're looking at 7, that would be a Gravity Blade. Doesn't really help. Only takes out Carrot. So I think Red Rock is a bigger deal. And yes, it is. It is stacked up 6 Don, 3 Don, right? So might be the mental math that Albert is doing right here to Red Rock Hody Jones. And then swing the rest of your Don. Use your leader effect and swing into Carrot. Might be the play he's considering with this 9 Don. You have to be very careful because you do need, at minimum, you need to keep those 3 extra Don up. 2 for the teach if you want. There it is. That's the teach. Playing the teach that has already been KO'd. Incredible. But what this does do is it does allow Silent Quack to rest it again for a 4th time. But going to use that activate main, give Dofi a free 7k power. He's counting 5 there. 4, 2, and 1 is the separation. So this could be a bounce law. Could be a bounce law play to keep. Okay, here's a thought. If Silent Quack rests teach on the swing, then you can play bounce law and bounce teach back to your hand to keep it safe. So Albert is going to play Boa Hancock, giving it again another Don. Actually attaching the rest of his active Don to the leader, playing Gecko, 10k into Carrot, and he's going to bring another teach back, anticipating Silent Quack to rest this teach. Decides to rest Weevil instead. Doesn't want another attack from Weevil this turn. But that leaves the teach active. I think Silent Quack understands at this point. He's kind of lost the war on the teach battle, right? Teach has been played 4 times in this game. Gecko literally just brought another teach back. Like, at this point, Teach has gotten so much value that it's not worth it to fight. Might as well take out the big body characters like the Weevil and play Shanks, KOing Weevil and Boa Hancock on this turn. 1 through attack from Hody and 1 through the Shanks ability. That does leave 1 Don active. Now, we've seen Silent Quack 2 games in a row on stream go be able to play multiple Shanks. Is Silent Quack going to be able to do that this time around? Because you'd imagine Eustace Kid would be very helpful here if you can get a blocker next to it. However, since Albert's variant of Doflamingo has so many red rocks, it might be very difficult to establish a Kid. Unless you get, say, Kid Tashigi together at the same point and you can just rest the Tashigi instead. That's asking a lot for Silent Quack. He's showing off the 1 Don, the 1 active Don. I love pushing up the 1 Don there. Also, for the update, Tissue Slayer has won our other top 4 games. So that was Usopp. Congratulations to Usopp. Going, I guess that would make a bare minimum of 5-1 here in 6 rounds of our illustrious Card and Games One Piece Store Championship. So congratulations to them. Usopp making the top 4. That is awesome to see here in this new format. But back to our finals with Albert and Silent Quack. Hody Jones is tapped right now. If Albert wants, he can get some big bodies, or Big Don, onto that effect. Flips Teach over from the leader effect. So that means Albert did not have a lot of great
6 stun left?
things available to use. Down to 2 life. Doflamingo is still at 5 life right now. But the longer this game goes, I think the more it's going to favor Bonnie if she can get so many big bodies out. If Silent Quack is able to get multiple big bodies, it's going to be very easy to clear Dofi's board every turn. That's going to be a 2K Scratchman of Pooh to counter out of Gecko's 6K attack into life. And the rest of Albert's Don are going into life. The rest of his Don go on to the Teach, who swings into life, I should say, bringing Silent Quack down to 1 life. It's 5 life to 1. Albert doesn't care about Teach anymore. He's using it offensively. He doesn't need the defensive capabilities of Teach because it's going to be working like a pseudo blocker anyway if Silent Quack keeps wasting attacks into these rested Teaches. 5 characters on board for Dofi. Quack is down to 1 life. What can he do? He's been in some precarious spots all day on stream. His 3rd stream match of the day. Bonnie's going to swing at the 1 Teach, get rid of it. Hody Jones swinging into the rested Gecko Moria. And now Shanks should be attacking the Boa. Obviously, that's going to be more than enough to take it down. So Dofi only has 2 small bodies left. Yes, it is Teach who has that incredible activate main ability to give a free leader effect essentially to Doflamingo, but these are very low power characters compared to the absolute powerhouses that Silent Quack has on his side of the board. This is a turn that if Silent Quack has access to a Eustace Kid in his hand and say a blocker, a killer or a Rosinante or a Bartolomeo or something, this is the turn you can really take advantage of it. Because even if there's a red rock, like worst case scenario, Kid gets red rocked, then Dofi is wasting so much of his Don and does not have enough power with the other swings remaining to go for game. So Bonnie often relies on Eustace Kid to stall games down to a crawl. And this might be a situation that Silent Quack needs to come back 5 life to 1 right now. Quack has to get defensive here. I see his Shanks in his hand, so that means all 3 games, Quack has found both of his Shanks. Absolutely crazy. There's a Cavendish. Cavendish would restand, give you 7 Don to play something else. That's exactly what he's going to go for. So spend 5 and on play if you have a Supernova. As your leader, restand 2 Don is active. So he's going 7. Now Albert knows that Eustace Kid is not coming this turn. There's a Carrot. Carrot is going to keep Teach rested, but Teach can still use his activate. He still uses his main effect while rested. It doesn't stipulate you have to rest this character to give Dofi the Don. So sure, it's 1 less attack on this turn, but Quack has no blocker out. Teach can still give the value to Dofi. I wonder what Albert's looking for in this spot. There's the Gravity Blade. That's 7 Don spend. It's effectively the same thing as I was saying, right, with Kid. If Dofi spends so much using an event, either this case Gravity Blade, the other scenario with Kid would be Red Rock, that he doesn't have a lot of other Don available here. For example, the most he could do into Hody Jones would be activate 2 cards, or activate 2 Don onto Dofi, use that other 3 Don that's active, and get 10 into 8. He can't, that's right, he only gets a 9, too. So it's going to be 9 into 8, or 9 into that. Bounce Perona back, just for the search, just for a potential search later on, maybe, or just having counter in hand. And is that 9 into life?
9?
That was 9 into life. Silent Quack goes down to 0 life. It's 5 life to 0. Silent Quack has been on the back wall all game in the finals here. Albert is 1 swing away from becoming our store champion. Bonnie goes into teach. Albert has a fully empty board, has to take these 2 life, obviously, from these massive swings. And there's the kid. Now it's time to taunt. It's time to get distracted. Dofi has to swing into Kid here. He plays Rosinante off the ability, so uses Kid with 1 down attached and rested, essentially becomes your leader. All attacks have to get redirected into Kid. And with Rosinante on the field, if one of your other characters would be KO'd by one of your opponent's effects, you can just KO Rosinante instead. This case, with the bottom decking, if you bottom deck Kid somehow, then Rosinante is still a blocker, right? So Rosinante can still block the Doflamingo swing for the turn. As long as Silent Quack continues to play kids and play blockers, even at 0 Dawn, although it is quite a precarious position to be in, I think Silent Quack has a pretty solid spot here and chance to win this game, to come back from down literally 5 to 0 on life. The defensive capabilities that Bonnie as a leader showcases are just incredible. So Silent Quack passing back over to Albert. Draw for the turn. Now Albert's in a tough spot. How do you deal with this kid? You have no other attackers on board. So it's not like you can just spam 8K level attacks to get cards out of Silent Quack's hand. This kid, it seems like Silent Quack had access to every card that he needed perfectly. The exact turn he needed to play Hody Jones on 8 Don, he played Hody and kept the active Don up. The exact turn he needed to play Shanks, he played Shanks and kept the Bonnie active Don up for leader effect. And then right with 0 life remaining, plays Kid at the perfect time while wiping Dofi's board. Silent Quack has had an incredible day today here at Illustrious, and we'll see if he can pull the comeback off. Down 5 life to 0 and walk out store champion. Albert's doing the math. He plays a Red Rock, and that's exactly what I was talking about. That 6 Don, Rosinante does not stop remove from field effects, but Rosinante is still a blocker. So Rosinante can still block the swing, but he can't because Bounce Law is right there. He's going to tap Perona. Law will bounce Rosinante back to hand. That's obviously has to bounce Perona back first. So the ordering mattered. Perona needed to be tapped for that, and then Law bounces Perona. That's the stipulation, to return one of Silent Quack's cards there. He did gain counter, however, with the Rosinante. So that's a carrot. That's 7. Or that's 8, excuse me, because of the 2K, excuse me. So that is 8. So he gets out of it.
5.
Kid was bottom decked. Rosinante is back in hand. So if Silent Quack has another Kid, you just kind of have to hope that Albert doesn't have another Red Rock, right? I think that's what we're kind of in this spot. This is a Kid versus Red Rock situation right now. The other option is if Silent Quack has Hody Jones, and most Bonnies play Hody Jones for a reason. That would be 4 swings at life with leader, Hody, Shanks, with 3 life left. All 4 of those swings would have to go through to stop this. If you don't believe all 4 of those attacks are going to go through, especially with how much counter Albert probably has in his hand, getting countered with Perona back, right? You even know he has counter in his hand with Perona. Very unlikely that the leader swing with a low investment of Don is going to go through. So I think Quack has to find a way to take some life but get some blockers. Now the issue is if you put 2 low cost blockers out and Albert has Gravity Blade in hand, then you're in trouble. But if you put a Kid out and he has a Red Rock in hand, it's still really scary. So these events have really helped Albert put himself in the lead, even though he's essentially only getting one attack per turn. That's gonna be the Perona countering out of Bonnie's swing. So you know you can't go for game now. Because no matter what, you have 3 swings this turn if you played a rush Hody, and he'd just go to 0. You know it's not possible to win the game now. So Quack has to adjust. There's the kid. There's Kid, but he only has 9 Don left. He has Kid in hand, but only 8 Don. Excuse me, only 8 Don. So you can't even play Kid now because the second Don used for Bonnie Searcher. So Kid is off the board right now. What is Silent Quack's plan? How is he going to get out of this one? The Kid is so close, but you don't have enough Don for it. Looks like he's going to go for another Bonnie Searcher. That's going to cost 2 more Don. This is what we saw from our Blackbeard player earlier, going for double a feat on the last turn, trying to just search for anything. Hody into Law. This is 8K into 5. So 2 2Ks gets out of it. Now Silent Quack has to waste his Shank swing into Law if he doesn't want to deal or doesn't want to place multiple blockers down. Looks like Quack is considering the attack into Law. I think it's a good idea to get rid of that Law. But we'll see what his thoughts are. Maybe play the other Bonnie that you found for. Yes, exactly, Quack. Play the second Bonnie, search out your options, gaining a 2K, trying to be defensive. Shanks, I didn't see physically where he attacked, but it goes into life instead of Law. That's going to be one. That's going to be the Rosinante blocker 2. So that's a smoker who restands the Don. You don't need to you don't need to KO Law because Smoker restood a Don for Bonnie leader effect. Now Albert essentially only has 1 swing because the other swing will get tapped by leader effect. Really smart play by Silent Quack to take a life on a turn that many other players might have just cleared the board. But if you clear that, if that Shank swing goes into Law, you're still not closer to winning because Albert is still at 3 life. Now Albert's at 2 life. And you're very likely, if you make it through this turn for Silent Quack, they are very likely to win the game next turn with the amount of swings they would have to their disposal. It's very tough for Albert to get through. A lot of deliberation right now on Albert's end. The same realization that we're coming to, that if the board is brought back to Quack, it's probably GG for Bonnie. Albert is probably also having that same consideration. Albert has had so much success today with his use of events in this Doflamingo deck. Bottom decking three times in a Blackbeard matchup with Red Rock. The Red Rock in the perfect time here. The Gravity Blade at the perfect time here in the finals. If Albert has a Red Rock, or excuse me, as a Gravity Blade, you Gravity Blade Rosinante and Smoker and get rid of the blocker and force Quack to have counter for the win. It appears he's not going that route because he's Gravity Blade costs 7. He just played a 4-cost Boa. Hancock, so that is not happening.
Yeah, their timer.
There's no Gravity Blade left.
You're about to say.
Yeah.
Put it on the ball. And then
Boa does give that one rested Don to Dofi. Another Don being used for Perona. So Albert's now down to 5 Don left on the turn, meaning Red Rock is off the table. You can't Red Rock the blocker and try to go for game either. If Quack only has 1, I was going to say, does he have 1 or 2? He has 2 cards in hand, it appears, Quack. We know one of them is the 2K that he searched off of Bonnie last turn. So it is 3 cards in hand for Quack. At minimum, he has 2K counter. Quack is hoping he has more. That's a 5K swing into life. Playing Law. You have to rest the you have to rest the other Law, right? Because the other Law can attack on this turn. If you don't, the other Law, the first Law, the topmost Law on Albert's end, was played the prior turn. So wait, he rests the Boa. Now Bounce Law will bounce Perona back, which bounces Smoker back, and Rosinante's forced to block there because Quack cannot get through a 10k swing. Now the question is, does Law go for the attack? Law goes for the swing into Bonnie, getting rid of an attacker next turn. Now in this spot for Silent Quack, Doflamingo doesn't even help, right? If you rest all three characters, so what? Then Albert's gonna swing 15k at you and you can't get out of it. So Silent Quack has to go for game right now. 0 life. He was down 5-0 in life against Albert, and this Bonnie has stalled the game out. That's the first life. That's 9 into life, takes it down. This is 11k from Shanks into life, and now Bonnie's gonna go 15. How do we get there? 9, 11, 13. He almost had it. But Silent Quack is able to get there. Unbelievable. Down 5-0 in life. And Bonnie is... Oh, wait. Hold on.
I feel like I've had a couple of misplays.
Am I reading it right? I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. I saw how it was registered. Silent Quack with the victory, right?
Well, you were searching for this, though.
Yeah, I was. But I had a Perona in hand.
The fist bump got me a little confused there. I apologize, everybody.
Then,
But yes, Silent Quack, I was a little confused with how the fist bump went down. Silent Quack with the victory here in our final round of the Illustrious Cards and Games One Piece Store Championship. I was so excited. I was a little confused there. I thought he had it, and just the way that the celebrations looked, I was a little thrown off. But congratulations to Silent Quack. What an excellent day that they have had all day here on stream.
I'm never blocking an 8 that early.
Okay, yeah. That's fair, yeah.
So you forced me to rest this, and then your teacher's a lot.
Yeah.
Cynical Taco's asking why didn't he counter the 11k?
Yeah.
I feel like that one mistake is pretty important.
Yeah.
Because he had what? He had... Uh, 7, 9, 11, 13. He had 13. I'm not sure, Taco. I'm not sure. But anyway, that was incredible. Thank you all so much for watching along with us. Got a little hectic there in that last turn for everybody involved, let's just say. Congratulations to Silent Quack. Excellent day. Our One Piece Store Regional Champion. Thank you all so much for watching. If it's your first time watching an Illustrious event, we stream all of our One Piece events our weeklies every Thursday and Saturday. So follow the channel, have those notifications on. For now, I'm Zemanon signing off. We'll see you for our next event here at Illustrious. Thank you.